think we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you all for your interest in the productivity tools and making the decision to spend some time with us today. The productivity tools are a collection of product extensions that enhance the user productivity within the Acumatica ERP product. My name is Marty Rhodes, and I'll be your host today for this presentation. Also with me is Chantal Carmen, our marketing coordinator. And after the session, if you have any questions or would like more information, please visit Chantal in our booth in the expo. Single Source celebrated its 39th anniversary in business this year, and we've been an Acumatica partner since 2020. And our focus for the past almost 30 years has been on the service industry. Now, these are companies that sell, install, and service equipment. And the need for the productivity tools was based on our years of experience that we've had working with other ERP systems. And when we partnered with Acumatica, we recognized some basic functionality that was lacking within the product. Now, although the productivity tools were manifested from the service industry in our experience, please keep in mind these are horizontal applications and can be used by any organization with any addition from Acumatica, be it construction, manufacturing, distribution, or retail. Now, the productivity tools are a low-cost, high-value. Oh, I'm going to turn off my my video here just so you can focus on the presentation. The productivity tools are a suite of products that improve the experience, as I mentioned, and the productivity for Acumatica users. And as I mentioned, the productivity tools are a horizontal application that can be used with any edition of Acumatica and across multiple segments of a business. The productivity tools are made up of two modules, the Agreement Designer and the Questionnaire Designer. And I'm going to walk through a few slides to explain the features of each of these designers. And unfortunately, just due to time constraints, the presentation will not include a live demo, but we do have on-demand videos of both of these products. Let's start with the Agreement Designer. Now, maybe your company uses statements of work or change orders or creates specific quote documents for sales, service orders, or projects, or maybe you have purchase order agreements with some of your vendors. These are just a few use cases of how you might use the Agreement Designer. If you create any of these documents that you see on the screen here from Word or Google Docs templates, then you're a candidate for the Agreement Designer. With the Agreement Designer, you can define reusable sections of content, such as a disclaimer copy, a warranty definition, any type of legal language or scope of work definition, for example. And then you assemble these sections into a reusable template that can then be associated with transactional documents or profile records within Acumatica. These records might be a statement of work, a quote, a sales order, as I mentioned earlier, a project. They could be contracts or a contractor compliance agreement. In addition to the text within these sections, you can also embed data directly in the document that's stored in Acumatica. We're curious to know, does your company have a requirement for any of these use cases? And Chantel's going to prompt you for a poll, so if you wouldn't mind voting, please. All right, we might be having problems with the polling here, so we'll just continue on with the presentation. I'm going to start with the end in mind. So this is actually an agreement that was rendered using the Agreement Designer. And I'm going to use my cursor here and explain to you some of the components of this agreement. So at the top here, we've got a repeating page header. We've got a document header that's just this information here. I know it's really small, but this is actually data that has been extracted from Acumatica and embedded and rendered inside the document. And then any place that you see a blue title here, these are actually the reusable sections. So you define, for example, here an introduction section, a deposit requirements section, and then you assemble these sections into a template. Also, you'll notice some line level detail. So what we're looking at here is an opportunity. We've got the account information, the total of the opportunity, and this is the line level detail that's associated with this opportunity extracted out of Acumatica and embedded in the document itself. So I'm going to walk you through at a very high level and very quickly how we would assemble and use an agreement, just like you're seeing here. This is the agreement section form on the right-hand side, and in Acumatica, you build a section. So a section's got a title, and then this is the content, and we're using the rich text editor from Acumatica, and then once those are assembled into a template, they are rendered in the document in the sequence that you place when you're actually defining the document. So I'm going to go to the next screen here. And once these sections have been defined, the individual sections are assembled into an agreement template. So what you're looking at now is the agreement template form within the application. These templates are specific to an Acumatica document or a profile. So in this case, we're building a template that's going to be used on a sales quote or an opportunity. Some of these other examples might be, you might have an over-the-counter sales order template, for example, with language reflecting your return policy. But you could also have a dropship sales order template that includes standard shipping and handling language for your dropship orders. I'm not quite sure why this keeps advancing on its own, so sorry about that. The agreement sections are sequenced. So you can see the actual sequence column here, and essentially you build a template header, give it a name, and then when the file gets rendered, it's actually going to render a file. So we actually do some dynamic substitution. So when the file gets rendered, it's going to be have the label quote, the opportunity number, the agreement number, and then the revision. And then it, again, may be hard to see here, but it renders out in either a PDF file, or we also support a Word.docx version. So you assemble your sections, you define the headers, header and footer information like we saw on the example that I showed earlier. On this tab, you would define where the line level detail that you want to reflected on the document itself. Once the template has been rendered, you then assign it or apply it to a document or a profile. So again, we created an opportunity template. We go into the opportunity form. You'll notice now we've got a new tab here called an agreement, the agreement tab, to assign or attach an agreement to this opportunity. We hit the add button. That takes us into the form itself. So it's brought forward the opportunity number. So it's associating this template with this opportunity. It's given it a unique number. Once these sections from the template have been dropped in, you can manipulate those. You can add additional sections for this unique transaction. You can modify these sections that have defaulted in. You can reorder them, whatever you would like to do to manipulate those. And then once you have that final draft, if you will, you hit the generate button, and it takes all of the information that you want to embed, the data that you want to embed from the transaction, in this case, the opportunity, and that will automatically embed that into the document. So again, at the placeholders, back on that example I gave you, at the top, we had the account information, we had the opportunity number, we had the total of the opportunity. So by rendering that document, it actually creates a real file. And then that file gets stored with the opportunity. And you'll notice up here, we have a file indicator. So it stores that file with the actual transaction. Here's just quickly another example. This is a change order. Again, we've got the page header information. We've got the document information. I know, again, it's really hard to see, but this is project data that's been extracted from the project record itself. And then we have a number of sections here that we've embedded into the template. And then you can see that we've reused. Here's the deposit requirements and the payment terms that might have been on the previous example that I gave you. Now, the document types and the profiles that we support are on the left-hand side there. So you can create an agreement and embed data from any of these, either transaction types or profiles. So many people do have a legal language related to agreements. Maybe they have an agreement with a customer or contracts. Any of these documents you can build, you create your template, embed data from those, and then render the document. And then I didn't mention, but where a document might have a signature, we do work with the Acumatica e-sign feature, so you can send the document via DocuSign, Adobe DocuSign, DocuSign or Adobe Sign, and then once those are returned, you can store that document with either the transactional record or that profile record. So I'm going to move quickly into the questionnaire designer. And if you create any of these documents from templates, and you would also be a candidate for the productivity tools. Maybe your company uses some type of site surveys or a punch list, inspection reports, worksite checklist, and these are typically used by field-based personnel, but questionnaires can also be used for back office processes like employee onboarding checklist or shipping receiving checklist or even a vendor compliance checklist. And we use the word questionnaire as a general term to represent various types of use cases that can be supported. And basically all these documents, all these questionnaires collect data, and they ask a series of questions, and we collect those responses and we record those responses as data in Acumatica. Now, many companies actually, start with not taking the productivities into consideration, but, current state, a company might start with a template in Word or Excel and make a copy of that document and assign it to employee. They go out and they collect the responses and store it in the document somewhere on a file server, or they attach it as a file to a record in Acumatica. The limitation of this is that it's document based. And unless you're using some type of advanced document management system, it's difficult to do any searching or reporting on the results because, again, they're stored in the document. The benefit of the questionnaire designer is that it stores both the questions and the responses as data in the Acumatica database. Therefore, you can search on it, you can report on it using a generic inquiry or any Acumatica compatible reporting tool. Now, again, we're going to begin with the end in mind. And here we have a document that was rendered with the questionnaire designer. Again, we have the company logo at the top and some header information that we've extracted from. In this case, we're doing a service order. So we've extracted some and embedded some service order information. And then we have the data, the questions and the responses that we've collected in table formats. We have a group or a table here of site information. We've got a table of visit information and a table of the steps that have been completed for this the service and repair inspection questionnaire. So at the bottom, we also have some footer information that, again, we define once. It can be reused, and we have a client signature. Also bring to your attention, there's some color coding. So these are visual indicators that can be configured for each questionnaire. So if a value is outside of an acceptable range, you are able to highlight it in red. If if it is an acceptable range, you can highlight it in green. If it's something that maybe you want to bring to someone's attention, maybe you use yellow. So for example, if they're doing the inspection on this thermostat type, maybe it's a non-programmable. That's an opportunity for that person to maybe do an upsell. Maybe they can sell them a Wi-Fi or a programmable thermostat. So again, you have the ability to do a little bit of formatting as it relates to the results that you have collected. Now, again, we're going to start with a template. So in this case, we've got this is going to be related to a service order, and we're doing an HVAC inspection. We give it the header information. You'll notice the tabs here. These are the specific steps or questions that are going to be asked, but we also define the header and the footer information. For the steps, we give it just a step code. This is a unique value that allows you to aggregate data across different across a collection of the same questionnaires. So again, if you want to do some analytical reporting, you're able to do that. Here's those group values. So group 1 is represented as sequence number 10, group 2, 20, and then group 3, we have a collection of indicators for a group of number 30. And then we sequence them. We can collect different data types. So we have text boxes, we've got drop-down list, poll, we've got check boxes. We give it a description, and then you also have the ability to set those thresholds. So if you're looking for a value to be in an acceptable range, for example, here we have a minimum value of 0 and a maximum value of 300. It has, so the user has to enter a value in that range for it to be accepted. And then we have the passing value, where we're looking for that green number. And if they put it outside, if it's less than 30 or greater than 150, that's where we're going to get that red indicator. So you have the ability, once you set up this template, to default in some values to make it easier for the user to accept the response. You can also allow additional comments. So in addition to answering a yes/no question, maybe with a checkbox, they have the ability to type in some additional comments. And I'll show you what that looks like in a subsequent screen here. Now, after the questionnaire template has been created, it's ready for use. And when a user is ready to associate a questionnaire to a document, the user makes that desired screen active in Acumatica. So here we are in the service order form, and we're going to create a questionnaire or assign a questionnaire to this service order. And you might notice that I'm on the agreement tab. So we've added the agreement tab. You also see the questionnaire tab. You also see the agreement tab. So agreements, as we talked about earlier, can also be associated to a service order. Now, I didn't mention earlier, but you can have more than one questionnaire per transactional document. So we can see that we've had, over the course of time, we've gone out and done multiple inspections under this work order. And again, to create a new questionnaire for this transaction, we hit the add button. It takes us over into the questionnaire. It brings over and associates the master record, which again in this case is a service order, and then it defaults in all of those questions for this particular service order. And again, the person responsible for rendering the questionnaire has the ability to override any of the defaults that come in from the template. They can remove questions, they can add questions, they can do any manipulation to that before they actually generate that for use. Once it's ready, you then assign it, or it's available on that document for a user to access. And what you see on the left-hand side here is the user interface. And this is going to be the user interface that a user sees either at the desktop or the mobile. So it's a single user interface. And this is just an example. what a question is going to look like. So, step number one, or question number one, is what's the thermostat type. We have the pull down. And then the response that we had, it was non-programmable earlier, and we had a yellow value, but if it's programmable, maybe we have it as green. And then here we have where we have to enter a value in an acceptable range. So we're prompting the user with that range. I mentioned earlier, you can have additional comments, so the user is able to type those in. And then this is the output that would generate. Once the questions have been collected on that questionnaire form, I didn't bring it to your attention earlier, but it populates that record or that questionnaire with the actual data. So again, we're storing this as data in Acumatica, and you have the ability to report on that. And these are the document types that we support. So you can create questionnaires for cases, maybe for customers. If you're onboarding customers, or you have a formal customer change management approach when you add new customers. I mentioned employee onboarding checklist, any types of site surveys, inspection checklists for projects. So again, this is a very horizontal application, many different use cases within organization. And I'm going to wrap it up real quick here. I've hit my time limit. So if you are interested in pricing and licensing, or if you have specific questions about the functionality, you can visit us in the expo, or you can contact us by submitting an email to success@singlesrc.com. Thank you for your interest in the productivity tools and spending time with us today. That concludes today's presentation.